Hello, hello, and welcome back to Knit Your Stress Away. Today, we are talking about cortisol. And before you roll your eyes, because you've heard the word and it may have been now feeling quite annoying at this point because it's everywhere, stay with me. This is not going to be your cortisol is broken and you need 17 supplements episode. We're going to keep this super simple. We're going to talk about what it is, how stress actually affects it, and why might something as simple and basic as knitting help you calm down a little and also lower your cortisol. So let's get into it. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away, the podcast for moms who want to knit instead of scroll. I'm Nadine, and I help overwhelmed moms swap doom scrolling for knitting so you can finally have 20 minutes of peace that don't involve a screen. Whether you're brand new to knitting or getting back into it after years away, this show will teach you how to use knitting as a tool to calm your nervous system, set boundaries with your phone, and reclaim time for yourself without the guilt. No fancy techniques, no complicated patterns, just some practical tips, real talk about stress and motherhood, and simple ways to make knitting a part of your everyday life. So put down the phone, grab your needles, and let's knit the stress away, one stitch at a time. Hey, and welcome back to the Knit Your Stress Away podcast. I am Nadine. I'm a mom, I'm a knitter, and I am definitely someone who can tell you a story or two about stress and how knitting has actually helped me respond to that stress in a really cool way while making some awesome creative things. So today, let's talk about this cortisol thing. So what is it? Let's start at the beginning, right? Cortisol is one of your body's main stress hormones. It helps your body respond to stress. It manages your energy. And there's a lot of different important everyday jobs that cortisol actually helps you with. So it's not the problem. So the problem isn't the cortisol itself and the fact that it exists. It's actually a good thing. The problem is that under stress, so often your body does not get enough chances to shift out of this high alert state that cortisol puts us into. Cortisol itself is not the villain. It is actually pretty useful. For example, if you need to wake up in the morning, or you need to respond to a challenge, or you need to get through something demanding, it could even be a workout, something that's very good for your body. But cortisol is part of that system. Your cortisol actually responds to those and helps you get through those challenging things. And interestingly, even just in the morning, like the challenging thing in the morning being the waking up, cortisol is there to help you. What does happen to us often, and I actually heard this on another podcast as well, where this was something that I really then wanted to look into because it was so interesting to me that by overloading our system first thing in the morning with caffeine on an empty stomach, as an example, which probably a lot of us do, I know I used to, we actually kind of spike that cortisol unnecessarily. And that can then become a problem. So just as a side note, this was not even part of my notes for this episode, but to buffer the morning cortisol spike, if you will, which you already naturally have a cortisol spike from just your body getting up and daylight and such things, you can just hold off with the coffee until you have a little bit of protein in your stomach. Again, something I learned from a different podcast. I'm going to link the podcast up because it is really cool. And honestly, I have to look up what it was, which one, because right off the bat, as I'm thinking about this here while I'm recording, I don't even remember the name of it. So I will make sure to pop it into the show notes because it was super duper interesting. But okay, back to what the cortisol actually does in our body. So if your days are nonstop, which I'm assuming for a lot of you guys, that's the case. I know it's for me. Your brain is overloaded pretty much constantly. And your only real evening break, quote unquote, is possibly consuming even more stimulating content through your phone. Your body may stay more activated than it actually needs to. And that's then when you start feeling edgy, depleted, you feel wired but tired. Ever had that where you're like, man, I want to go to sleep. My body is so beat, but I just can't because my brain is still going and going and going. Or just generally you're feeling like your nervous system is just sick of this, right? I think you guys can probably relate because same here. Now, here's the important thing. Knitting isn't a hack, right? Knitting doesn't just hack your cortisol in some dramatic and overnight way. That is not what I'm telling you here on this episode, so please hear me. But what it can do is help create the conditions that your body needs to come out of the stress mode and the high cortisol mode. There are other ways to do this, of course, as well. But this is the part that actually matters, where you break that cycle of continuously being in that fight or flight mode and kind of give your body a break to actually have a chance to lower that cortisol to a healthy level, right? Or back to a level where it then can do its job again. Because again, when you come into a situation where the cortisol is needed and your body needs it for a good response, then yes, it would be best if it weren't already high, right? So when you knit, especially when you create for yourself a calm environment where you actually do your craft, you tend to breathe more steadily. You focus on that one task, and you are doing a repetitive motion. And for your brain, this repetitive motion also feels predictable. And this kind of repetitive and sort of low-key activity, it could support that relaxation and emotional regulation of your nervous system. And it can really long-term set the conditions to bring that cortisol back to a good level. So when I say knitting helps lower stress, I am definitely like saying it's some sort of magic hormone button that you push and woohoo, tomorrow you're cured, everything's great. But I am saying that it helps interrupt this constant stress input that we're exposed to because life, right? But that some of the things we are exposing ourselves to, for example, the phone use, right? And the social media and the news and the constant notifications, there are ways to just avoid those in the moment. You do not need them on all the time. And then just do something else that helps lower that stress in that moment. But over time, this can truly make a difference and you will feel that. And I think for a lot of us, that is a huge breakthrough. And it's a big deal to truly understand that. And I think the biggest key here, or the biggest part, is that knowing what that thing is. And if you feel like, oh, knitting could be that thing for me, or maybe you're like, yeah, guess what? 10 years ago, I used to do that. I used to knit because I just loved doing it, not because you needed, a stress relief of any kind. Maybe you didn't back then. I always joke with my husband, like, yeah, remember when we had no kids and we thought we were stressed? So that was the time when I was knitting for fun, not because I needed it, because of some sort of stress that I had in my life. I mean, yeah, obviously everybody has some sort of stress, but I think, every mom out there knows that things change drastically once you have kids. And what we thought was stress before, gets put into perspective, right? So I think this is a really great thing. If you never thought about knitting as this stress buster, this is your way of looking at it. Okay, now I want to talk about how or what this could look like, this using knitting for lowering your stress in real life, right? You still have a full life. Let's just pretend like nothing's going to change overnight. Like you're not just not having certain things anymore or showing up to things that you need to show up for. And sometimes we have more stressful seasons than others. I'm feeling that big time right now as we're going in this graduation season. But your kids are still doing their thing. They're still loud. Your house is probably very loud. The dishes are still existing, to personally offend you, I'm sure. But instead of ending every night feeling overstimulated and trying to just escape that by looking at your phone and numbing, right? You could try to give yourself 20 minutes of stitching and just throw that phone in a corner. Over time, I can promise you your body will start recognizing that rhythm. Like, oh, so this is what we do now. Right? This is the time of night where we stop taking in more chaos, more stimulation, more news, more things for other people. This is the time where we are actually allowed to chill for 20 minutes and we're going to relax and we're going to do this thing no matter what. And I think that's one of the hard things too, right? To do this thing no matter what, even when things around you are still chaotic, even when things around you are not completely finished yet. I get that. I get that completely. And this is where you have to understand that self-care is not selfish and that you, in order to function your best, need to take that time. Even if you're not quite ready yet, it's just going to have to happen. And that is what I want for you. I do not want you to go in there like, oh, it has to be perfect. I have to get everything done first and I have to finish this thing and then I can sit down and maybe I get to knit for a few minutes. Also, not a morning routine that starts at like the crazy hours of the morning when, everyone else has another 3 hours of sleep. You do not have to be that person. You can do a nice new routine and work this system into your life without having to overhaul everything. And with that, I would like to give you 3 practical ways that you can use knitting for stress relief, and you can use it as soon as you are ready to knit. So if you're already a knitter, go for it. Just implement these literally today. If you are a knitter who hasn't knitted in a while, which again, that was me for such a long time, you may not have any tools, but I got you covered. So if you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed because it's been so long, I don't know what to get. And this might also go for those of you who haven't even started knitting yet. I commend you for listening to this podcast for this long and still thinking like, oh, is this for me? Is this not for me? I just love it so much. And I'm telling you it's for you. So go for the free download that has everything in it that you need as a returning knitter or as a new beginner knitter. It's called it's called Swap Scrolling for Stitching. It's a alliteration. They're all S. Swap Scrolling for Stitching. It's a 3-day reset, and it comes with the cheat sheet and all my favorite tools, links to them, and so on, so that you can literally start this thing this weekend. If you're listening to this on the day it comes out, it's Wednesday. You have a couple days, and then you can get this started. Again, if you already are a knitter and you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm not knitting as much as I want to, or I really can't figure out how to work this into my life more because I'm so darn busy, let's do this, okay? So 3 ways to use knitting for stress relief. Number 1, pair it with a time you already feel activated. So like right after dinner cleanup, or right when the kids go to bed, or during the window where you reach for your phone and then somehow, I don't know how, lose 52 minutes, right? So use it when you know you're going to pick up your phone and trick your mind to just pick up your knitting. We've talked about this in previous episodes. I like to hide my phone underneath my knitting project. It's a great trick to then be like, oh, that's right. I did promise myself that I would knit and not grab my phone. Let's do this. Number 2, keep the project super easy. You're not trying to impress anyone. This is for your nervous system support. This is not some sort of competition. So use a super simple, easy project that is just there for that reason, right? Make it a blanket. I'm currently making a blanket and it is taking forever, but it's the easiest project to pick up and drop at any point because there's nothing to it. There's no pattern to keep track of, no rows to keep track of. It's just knitting. Well, in my case, it's actually a crochet blanket, but that doesn't even matter if it's knitting or crocheting. Just make it something super easy to pick up so that you're not kind of like, oh gosh, okay, so now I have to look at the pattern first. I got to figure out which row I'm on. I got to figure out if I'm having all the colors together. And, all those things are just going to make you reach for your phone after all because you're like, oh, too much right now. No, let's keep the barriers super low. Number 3, track how you feel, not necessarily what you make, right? Just talked about it. Keep it simple, keep it easy, but track how you feel when you switch this out for your phone. Ask yourself, do I feel less buzzy after 15 minutes? Am I actually relaxing in my mind? Is my mind relaxing? Do my shoulders feel softer? Am I dropping my shoulders? I'm not talking about maybe sometimes, you can feel a little tense when you're knitting, when you're trying to knit too fast or whatever. So just kind of be mindful of this, like, take a breather, right? It's not a competition. We are not knitting in the Olympics here. We are knitting for ourselves. Am I less tempted to keep scrolling? Am I thinking, oh my gosh, I got to write this down. I got to pick up my phone. Ooh, I wonder what blah, blah, blah is doing. Are those thoughts keep coming up? Do those thoughts keep coming up, or are they actually getting less with time? That is the data that you're looking for. Not, did I make this thing in record time, or is this the prettiest thing that anyone has ever made? So ask yourself those questions. I challenge you to work this into your life as soon as you have those needles in your hand. Again, if you are already knitting, you may be like, yep, Nadine, I got this down. I knit like 5 hours a day. Hello. Tell us your secrets. Unless you don't have any children in your house, I don't know how you're doing that. But if you are new or if you're returning, grab your tools, get your 3-day reset. Jot down the 3 things that I just mentioned here. Just a quick reminder. 1 was pair your knitting time with a time that you're already feeling activated, like a time where you normally would reach for your phone, and then hide your phone underneath your knitting project. Number 2, keep the project super duper easy so it's easy to pick up. And number 3, track how you feel and ask yourself a few questions as you do this. And I promise, as you do this more often, you will notice a difference. I literally, when I feel activated, when I feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like, super stressed, something's happening, and I'm just kind of like, I need to do something. And often I do want to reach for my phone. I try to remember, no, let's reach for the project, whichever one it is. And it takes like 5 minutes of knitting. I'm like, okay, everything's fine. I can work through this. This is okay. That's where we want to be. Okay. So here's your takeaway. Cortisol is not your enemy. It is part of your body's stress response. It's there for a reason. The problem happens if your life keeps your system so revved up that you're constantly having cortisol being released in your body. That can over time be a problem, right? So knitting can become one of these very practical ways to help your body shift into something calmer and steadier. And of course, there are other things that you can combine with this too. A walk outside in the sunshine first thing in the morning, working out in general, eating healthy, drinking a lot of water. Obviously, all of these things are contributing to lowering your cortisol. But knitting is certainly one of those things that if you aren't doing it yet, bring it into your life. Just 20 minutes a day. All right. And next week, we are going to talk about why you can't sleep after scrolling and what to do instead if you want your evenings and nights to actually feel restful. If you want help to get started, Swap Scrolling for Stitching is your free download that you can get at theknittingmamas.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you feel called to share this episode with a mama that you know in your life, please do so. You can tag me on Instagram as well at @theknittingmamas_. And if you could leave a rating or a review for this podcast, I would absolutely love it. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're ready to swap your screen time for some peace, I made you a free guide called Swap Scrolling for Stitching. It'll teach you what to buy, how to start, and how to build the habit, even if you've never touched needles before. And if you already knit or crochet, this will help you build that habit into your life consistently. Link is in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, I would love it if you'd leave a quick review. This helps other stressed moms find the show and discover that there's a better way to unwind than scrolling Instagram at 10 p.m. Follow me on Instagram at @theknittingmamas_ for daily tips, and I'll see you next week for another episode.